got a whole family and community
Yes.
that we starting with this right now.
And the Bible say it takes a village.
Amen.
So
Amen.
we want to be, a part of the village, and with the hopes that you'll be part of our village.
Yes, sir. This is episode 1 of the Father and Son podcast. We're here live. I'm excited to see what God has for us and what we're about to do. Before I get into this, I just kind of wanted to talk about our journey and how we started the podcast and why we wanted to do this a little bit. And excuse me, I got my laptop out here. I've been a laptop kid since high school, college, corporate, take it everywhere. So I got my notes here. My dad, he got 30 years in this. He got it all top of his dome. That's not me quite yet, but I'm gonna get there. So
Amen.
I think the first thing that I want to start with is being able to talk to our community about why this is important. We're really trying to talk to individuals out here that haven't had a connection with their family. For me, just being honest and open about my own life. There's been times where I haven't been connected with my dad just for various reasons, and we'll get into that in different episodes. But I've seen the growth that I've gotten in these past, I'll say 2 to 3 years that we've connected, and just been on this journey and trying to grow our relationship and just getting wisdom and knowledge. I think there's a lot that you can say that I found just for kind of talking to you and just being able to get your wisdom and your knowledge about life. Some of the parallels that was there, even if we weren't connected, that still happened.
Had us connected.
Yeah,
Still
still
had us
connected.
connected. We're
Yeah,
still connected spiritually
spiritually. Yeah,
because the prayers of the righteous availeth much. And I prayed for you since you was a kid. So
Yeah.
I believe that God has had his hand on you and me the whole journey.
Yeah.
When I look back over my life and look over your life and the last 27 years, what I see is God's hand.
Right.
So if we was on a beach, I would say that there was a third footstep, and it was God's
Yeah.
with ours.
Yeah, that's true.
Even if we was apart, we
Yeah.
still was together.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure. It's funny you say that. I was doing some Bible study and I realized the importance of lineage, like throughout it. We read the Bible. We don't like to go through all the different names in it, but we serve a God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it's really important to kind of understand your lineage to see where you are now. And a lot of people like to cancel people and say that that's not them. They reinvent themselves. But when you start looking at your past, and when I started looking back on my past and connecting with you, I was able to see like this is showing me more about myself than anything. And then by me being able to know about me, it just created this new person, or not even a new person, unlocked the same person that I was.
You went back to the person you were before any impact happened.
Yeah, for any impact. We'll talk about that with trauma and everything like that, but it's really important. I think this podcast is going to free a lot of people, free a lot of people from bondage, from relationships that they've been running away from because of whatever trauma they might have. So I know we got a whole bunch of ideas that we're trying to go with the podcast. We're going to be talking about faith, fitness, vegan. You vegan,
vegan, vegan fit 5.2. At 25 backwards. So and looking at my son is like looking in the mirror at myself when I was his age. So it's like it's very inspiring to see your offspring going in the right direction and first and foremost loving God.
Yeah.
So it's always a good thing to sit back and look and see what God does for your children as a parent. And it does your heart fond after talking to so many parents that pray for their kids and their kids are not saved even to the day, and they much older than you. I feel not only blessed, I'm honored to even be here to experience it and to be in relationship with you as such in the last few years, even though I've been off and on. But I can say that this experience here even helped me grow. It helped me to be a more relaxed man. I believe a lot of my, I wouldn't say anxieties, but my frustrations came out in the way that I express myself when I talk to people. With reconnecting with you, I'm not anxious to get my point across with people. I think a lot of me pushing to try to get people to do things that they may have wanted to do or teamed up with me and I try to push them to do stuff came from the absence of you not being in my life.
Real.
So
Real.
people even see the difference
Yeah.
in just the time we spend together now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. That's I think what you just talked on or touched on with that is something I've been thinking about. Just you say you see me, you see the younger version. I feel like even right now, that's something that I've been struggling with trying to get my point across to people and just
Mm-hmm.
trying to impose my way on
Mm-hmm.
individuals and trying to make people do things that I can't do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we've kind of had conversations about that
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this podcast is going to allow people that are in my shoes currently.
Mm-hmm.
For context, like I gave my life to Christ 3 years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
this bracelet that I have, this one a little raggedy.
Mm-hmm.
I gave the when I went to the church here in Jersey, willing to just submit over my life as I was preparing to be a husband and just trying to find God,
Mm-hmm.
and wanted something more than what was going on in my life. And so in doing so, I was able to then reach out to you and connect with you
Mm-hmm.
as well. When I started seeking God, it made me able to want to seek that relationship with my
Mm-hmm.
dad too as well. And so often we get podcasts, we get videos of Christians that have been in the game for 20, 30 years. And while I
Mm-hmm.
think wisdom is important, it's good to also see the other side of it too as well, while you're
Mm-hmm.
going through it and trying to go through those trials and tribulations as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so important to have a parent, someone like you, a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
that's able to kind of give knowledge to me as I'm going through that journey as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something I've really been thinking about as we start this on this first episode is this who am I trying to reach? And I think that you give a great perspective for
Mm-hmm.
those that have been walking with Christ. Because your life, you said you've told me that
Mm-hmm.
you needed God. You can't do
I
it.
can't do without him. What I'm gonna do if I go back that way? That ain't gonna be a
It
good
ain't gonna
look.
be a
So
good job.
I
So
gotta be there. I gotta be
right.
locked in, and I
Mm-hmm.
have to be fed the word. I
Right.
have to read the word. I have to pray.
Right.
I have to fast. I have to constantly be in His face.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been on a prayer line since I got saved.
Yeah.
From Monday to Saturday, and every 2 weeks we meet together with men
Yeah.
that help formulate me to be as confident as I am to even have this conversation or have conversations with other young men and men.
Yeah. Real life Forge. You're not just watching it. You're
You
doing
realize,
it. You real life the Forge.
listen, real talk. It's funny because
Yeah.
when the Forge came out, Rob said to me, he said, did you go see the Forge yet? And I said, no, I ain't go see it. He said, no, you need to see the Forge. But I didn't know what the Forge was about. So I didn't even look at it. But when I finally looked at it, I said, well, I need to go see the Forge. But when I seen it, I was like, he was like, that's you.
Yeah.
That's what you've been doing.
Yeah.
And my time away from you really wasn't time away from me because God put all these God children and young men in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So when the time came that He was going to release you to be in my life, I was already prepared with the word, not just how I feel, or how I felt. And what really helped me is the young men that God allowed me to pour into their lives.
Right.
So even though in your absence, you were still present. That's why I always reached out as much as I did because I was already in preparation the whole time.
Yeah.
So it was good. And then to see your maturity level, for me, I'm 52 years old, but when I was 27, I didn't even have that type of maturity because I wasn't even in Christ at that time.
Right.
So it was a different lifestyle for me. I was immature. I wasn't formally educated, so I didn't have the support of having a father that would understand the word and have application.
Yeah.
I'm not a perfect man. I strive for perfection, but every day what I do is I make sure that I take a multiple steps towards Christ, even if I'm doing me in a small micro way.
Right.
I ain't doing me in a macro way where I'm getting lost and getting removed from serving God.
Yeah.
So that's the main key for me. So but when I look back over it and just see you at 20, 26, 25, actually 25 when you started this journey, I was like, well, God, you do answer prayers because the quicker you get it, the better off your offspring is. And you could change the trajectory of even your friends before you have children, and you could change the trajectory of your family.
Right.
And I have been successful to do some things, and my friends got saved and all that stuff.
This faith thing is contagious.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So to see you at a young age do it, I'm forever grateful to see it, because
Right.
people coming up to me now, even when we started pumping that we doing the Father Son podcast, they was like, Rashid, man, it's a blessing to see you and your son, because I've been praying for my kids for 30 years
Yeah.
and they still don't have a relationship, nor can they help usher them into Christ.
Right.
So to have both,
Yeah.
and I'm 52 and they in their 60s and 70s, I'm forever grateful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that. What just came to mind is that while you were waiting in your time to reconnect, it wasn't no, I'm just this life, poor me that
yeah,
this is
no,
happening.
no.
Like you still were doing things to set yourself up
Hmm.
and preparing for that
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
I think even for myself, as I think about that, it's just so many people that they just want it, but they don't also put in the work that, and then God can meet
Hmm.
them halfway. Like there's human. I think Bishop Reeves was talking about this human
Responsibility.
responsibility, and there's
Hmm.
then divine intervention
Hmm.
that come together when
Hmm.
you're doing that. So
Hmm.
that's really important. I think I want to go back because I realized I wanted to kind of set the stage of kind of what we before we even connected. For myself, he's wearing a Cornell shirt. I got the Cornell Alpha Phi Alpha, and just going before we even like connected. Throughout high school, college, I was always um, very very much grounded in trying to be successful and making sure
Hmm.
that I was a leader. I just kind of had these traits. That's what the fraternity Alpha Phi Alpha is about: being a
Hmm.
leader, serving our communities, helping those disadvantaged. And so I was doing all those things
Hmm.
without Christ. Like I can say that I wasn't going to church that often. Like I read my Bible here and there.
Hmm.
Most of college, even after graduating, I had the accolades, being a part of a fraternity,
Hmm.
being NAACP president when I was in college. But there was something still missing that I
Hmm.
think that I was still searching for.
Hmm.
And I didn't really kind of get that until I decided to give my life to Christ. And throughout that journey with being successful, with having a six-figure job and all this stuff happening, um, one of the biggest things that I wish that I did was kind of have that journey with Christ and see what that trajectory would look like.
Hmm.
I think so many of us, because we're doing successful in life, or we
Hmm.
have these things that we don't think that we need God to help restore us.
Hmm.
And so we can have these egos that allow us to say, I'm not going to talk to this person.
Hmm.
And I think I don't know who I'm speaking to right now, but we have this ego of like, oh, because I've made it, I've done what I needed to do, that I can separate myself.
Hmm.
And when we do that, we leave out a piece of ourselves.
Hmm.
And I think we've had this
Hmm.
conversation. That's what I was trying to say.
Hmm.
We've had these conversations too as well. It's really important to know both sides of
Hmm.
your family, and that's why lineage is so important. Because
Hmm.
knowing you has kind of helped figure out
Hmm.
pieces of myself too
Hmm.
as well. So
Hmm.
one of the things I wanted to ask you too during that journey, or your journey of like kind of doing the work on yourself, how has
Hmm.
that kind of helped with thinking about
So
both sides? Yeah.
I could say when I got saved
Yeah.
in 2002,
Mhm.
you were about 4.
Mhm.
Um, I started going to church,
Mhm.
and because I come from a background of Fruit of Islam,
Mhm.
uh, Baptist church, my grandma, and I went to Catholic school, I had a theological barometer that allowed me to know who God was,
Yeah.
whether it was the Catholicism in the Catholic Church, or whether it was Elijah Muhammad and the Fruit of Islam,
Mhm.
or whether it was Jesus Christ in the Baptist Church. So I was always conscious of who God was as a kid,
Yeah.
because I had so many different enlightenments as a kid
Okay.
and different teachings as a kid. So the fear of God as a kid was already put upon me because of all the different things I was
Yeah.
into. Getting older, you rebel. So as a kid, you rebel and you don't really do anything. But the convenience of Islam and the lifestyle that I lived before you were born allowed me to stay in Islam because it was convenient.
Mhm.
It was more so like the thing that guys in the street did,
Yeah.
and people that were living a good life or lifestyle. Um, it was easy to be Muslim and hide in that religion because a lot of people did the same things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Birds of a feather.
hmm,
Birds of a feather flock
yeah,
together.
it was
Yeah.
just like that. So
What
it
you
was
say?
like I know a lot of them guys even to this day they still
Mm-hmm.
living the way they live. However, when I got saved in 2022, um, my best friend was in the streets with me, um, and he invited me to church. And the second time I went, I got saved. Um, Cliff note, there's a lot more to that, but that's
Yeah.
just it. You'll see that in other episodes.
Right.
Um, but then I got saved, and y'all were younger. You had your older sister, you had your younger sister that's 7 months younger than you. Um, I start seeing life through a different lens because now I'm on house arrest and I can't go nowhere. I can't go outside.
Yeah.
Y'all kids, I got y'all. I start seeing life through a different lens because now everything that I did prior to y'all being born came to the forefront of my brain. Like, I don't want my kids to experience what I experienced.
Yeah.
So I believe that's why God used my best friend Reggie at the time to even invite me to church because God knew the bigger plan. I didn't, but I just followed. And when I followed, I started to see that you can't be the person you was if you want your kids to be good people. So not so much knowing that they had to be saved or even knowing that they had to be in a relationship with Christ, but I wanted to know, I wanted to offer something to y'all as being good people.
Wow. Wow. I just a lot of people get stuck in who they are. That's a big piece too. Is this is
Hmm.
like so many people I think this is even for the parents. They get stuck at who they were as a kid, and this
Hmm.
is who I am, and they don't think of this thing of like growing. They see
Hmm.
themselves. You age every year. You should be trying to reinvent yourself in a way that is closer to God.
Hmm.
And people just want to get stuck in their
Hmm.
mindset sometimes too.
And because I
Yeah.
did so much stuff as a young man, I
Hmm.
was a young kid because of the frustration that I had without having a father.
Yeah.
So without having a father, I tried hard to be a father
Hmm.
and tried to pivot each way a turn, whether it was relationships or whether it was just a bad situation.
Right.
I still try to pivot to be the father
Right.
because I knew what it was like not to have a father.
Hmm.
So that's why my fight was always like
Yeah.
my kids, my kids, my kids, no matter what, give me my kids. So
Hmm.
that's how I wound up, being in my kids' life like that and having all the godchildren that I have because I realized during that transition period when I joined the church and I was like, I just got to be a better version of me because my parents wasn't the version that I want to be.
Yeah.
And I can't be the version that they are because I didn't like it as a kid.
Hmm.
So I didn't want to be like most people, but like, well, I'm just like my mom or I'm just like my dad. I was like, I'm going to try hard not to be like them.
Yeah.
But in trying not to be like them, when trying not to be like them, I still had traits because of the traumas that I had from a kid.
Right.
Even though in my mind was saying I don't want to be that, but my actions were showing the same repeated behavior.
Hmm.
So then I started digging in, and you my son,
Yeah.
and how you research stuff. I started researching stuff
Yeah.
before it was a lot of internets and social media and all this
Google
stuff.
it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it was
Google it.
like
Yeah.
that's what I did. Like,
Right.
how do you become a better this?
Yeah.
And that's why I did a lot of different conferences and stuff around the world, and just trying to understand to be a better person.
Yeah.
Just so happened to be a Christian at that time, so I just started doing Christian things.
Yeah.
Did I get it all right all the time? Absolutely not,
Hmm.
because in life, um, you can't get it all at one time.
Yeah.
It's just not that way.
It's a journey.
You gotta keep journaling
Yeah.
in life to get it. And I'm 52 now. I'm just scratching the surface to get some stuff resolved from even my childhood
Right.
because the missing pieces from childhood and then being a parent and then just like you said a few minutes ago, it was stuff that you missed, but it was stuff that I missed as a parent that I could have got from my kids.
Right. Yeah.
So it was duplistic. It wasn't I made a kid and then you
Mhm.
raised a kid and then there's nothing there for you.
Right.
It was something there for me because I would have had to look at you that would in turn made me look at me.
Hmm.
So if I missed that piece, then I had to go through another different journey. Whomever the child was at that time, I was a piece of me missing. And that's what I said when we first started. I said, um, a lot of it, the tension that I had with people or the accountability that I gave people and the way that I gave it is because of what I didn't have.
Hmm.
and I really wanted it.
Right.
Now, it's one thing if I didn't want it,
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't act like that. But because I wanted it, my body gave off something to other people,
Yep.
whereas I was supposed to be receiving something from you or another circumstance situation, and I didn't get it, and then it made me be like staunch.
Right.
We need to do it like this.
Right.
And
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now it's crazy because in the last few years, since I've been divorced and separated and divorced, people are like, you so much calmer.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just like
Yep.
you smooth.
Yeah.
Like
Relax.
if somebody said this
That
to me the
glow
other
on
day, you like an alpha and kappa mix. So I said, explain it.
That's actually crazy. I can see that. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I can see that.
Give me some insight on that,
Yeah,
son, because that's why I just
alpha
told me
kappa.
that.
Nah, I think you got the coolness, you got the suaveness of Kappa, and then you also got the leadership, the kind of doing your own thing. Whatever you gonna start it. You first of all to start something, you first do the podcast. Yeah, I can see it. I can
That's
see
what they
it.
said. I
Hey,
said, well, I said when we get
you
to the
got alumni
podcast.
chapters now. Oh, that's funny. That's funny, man. I think it's so telling of kind of what we'll tend to do if we don't get it from the right source. We'll continue to try to make something the right thing because I think we've had conversations about this. A lot of people I think a lot of people do things out of love, but they only do it if they don't know God. They do it out of their traumas. So it comes out in a certain way, and it comes out with a certain energy to other people that it's just like, hey, like now, like it'll come out somewhere where people get offended by it or feel like it's too much. But it's just us again trying to just operate off of what we know as people. One of the things I want to ask you too. So as you were going through that journey, we weren't talking during that time, and it was hard probably for you at times. How were you able to um, go through those times? Like, were there support systems that you used?
Yeah and no. I did have support system because fortunately, when I got saved in 2002, God allowed me to have become fast friends with a lot of different pastors.
Right.
So a lot of what I tell people this all the time, a lot of what you see in me is because the people that God put me around when I first got saved. Whether I acted on it at that time or not, because I was in a presence, I am a part of them now at 52. Now, did I see it at 27, 28, or 29 or 30? I didn't see it. But God knew that I needed that type of leadership around me to pour into me, whether I was going to use the information at that time or not. In most cases, even in regards to not seeing you and praying for you every day, that kept me. At one time, I used to get, I'm going to go back and then come back forward to that. At one time, I used to get headaches when I first stopped not seeing you. I used to get headaches. I used to get sores. I used to be stressed because I didn't know how to process. It was like something was pulled from me that was attached to me, and I didn't know how to process it. And then I didn't have a parent that I could talk to and be like, "Well, what am I going through? Like, why am I feeling like this? Why I'm having these crazy headaches all the time?" I couldn't talk to nobody, so I was left to myself in my early stages of being saved. So it wasn't nobody. How did I deal with it? I didn't know how to deal with it. I just kept
stuck in your head.
I just kept going. All I knew was to keep going and don't quit.
Right.
I didn't, because dealing with a father that was addicted all my childhood life, it was like this. I don't want to be like that.
Right.
If that is the reason why, because he got baby moms that made him feel or not be able to achieve or not be able to make the income he want, and he went and did what he did. I don't want to be like that. So actually, I ran from not being that person, but I ran to being another person, which really wasn't still healthy. But I still ran. They say when you fight or flight, I kept flighting because I knew I had to do something. It was like I ran into this wall, turn, go. It was always like a football drill practice. I hit it. If I get stuck there, I hit it. I turn, and I would turn and be like, "What's next?" Not sit there and be like, "Oh, woe is me!" Like everything's just going wrong with me now, and I ain't got nowhere to go. I'm gonna go get me a bottle. No, it wasn't. That wasn't for me because I didn't have addictive behavior. My pivoting was like, I gotta get around people that's doing more than what I'm doing. be around people that got more that I have,
Right.
and learn something that I don't know from people that I don't know.
Right. Where you can elevate yourself. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how I'm
Yeah.
able to be who I am today.
Got you.
Because that's what I ran to. Other people ran to the bottle and ran to
Mm-hmm.
eating and all that. I ran to like success.
Yeah.
People that were successful that I thought were successful with my eyesight.
Mm-hmm.
And I played in those arenas. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
was in all them different arenas. That's why
Right.
you can go back down my
Yeah.
life and be like, that he was here, he was
Yeah.
here, he was here.
Yeah.
I wasn't never there.
There.
Like
Yeah.
it wasn't
Yep.
never
Yep.
I'm taking a dive this way. It was
Yep.
always I already started from here,
Yeah.
so I gotta go here.
Keep looking towards the light. Man, it might be alpha now. That's what I think. Hey,
That's what they
that's what it
said.
is. Towards the light. No,
But
that's
you
real.
you know what?
That's
It's
real.
funny you said that, son, because when you was on a line, again, I'm always inspecting what I expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
You my son, so I said, somebody called me. I forget who it was. Somebody called me and said, you know your son pledging.
Mm-hmm.
He pledging Alpha. The first thing I did, I looked up Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I wrote you something probably
Yeah,
on LinkedIn or
yeah,
somewhere. I
LinkedIn.
wrote you something.
Yep.
I said, I'm
Yep.
so glad that
Yep.
I said, that's who I am as a person.
Yep.
And I looked at it and I said, wow, because the actual thing that you may think that you don't have, you really do
Mm-hmm.
have, because God is always providing no matter what it
Yeah.
looks like. So when I seen, because I was a little bit more mature when you started on the line to be an alpha, I was like,
Yep.
that's me.
Yeah.
I said, he my son for real.
Mm-hmm.
I said, because why did he adopt? He could have been anything.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
could have been a Kappa.
Yep.
He could have been a Q,
Mm-hmm.
but you chose Alpha. And then when I read it, I said, Dio, my son for real, because that's who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And we not connected, but we're gonna be connected. That's what I said. I was saying this the whole time. I never took the ostrich approach with our relationship.
Yeah.
I always took the approach as when it happened.
Right.
I never looked at it as it's never gonna happen.
Right.
No matter what it sound like, no matter what it look like. And I think that was a level of maturity for me
Mm-hmm.
in that vein. And then I believe it was another level of immaturity in other
Yeah.
places because I couldn't process it all.
Right.
But I processed that
Yeah.
part that kept me keep going.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's funny you say. I feel like so even with me, my journey has been trying to just succeed as much as possible through
Mm-hmm.
leadership, helping people out where I can. Even in high school, when the Trayvon Martin thing happened, I put in
Mm-hmm.
like we did a sit-in at school
Mm-hmm.
around that situation. NAACP, helping out the community. Alpha, of course, we do things with the community. Um, Something that I think that has been interesting is that I kept grinding and getting these life experiences similar to you with the
Mm-hmm.
people that you've been around, being around my fraternity brothers,
Mm-hmm.
going to an Ivy League school,
Mm-hmm.
seeing those different experiences, seeing those different lives. But it was never no time for reflection
Mm-hmm.
for myself too as
Mm-hmm.
well. And when I started to reflect and then start putting the pieces together
Mm-hmm.
and seeing the journey that I've had,
Mm-hmm.
it was signs always there that was pointing right back to this moment. I think
Mm-hmm.
with everything, even with starting the podcast, when we started talking, I was
Mm-hmm.
telling you I was thinking about doing a podcast. You
Mm-hmm.
was just like, God was telling me about a podcast too as well, and like I was thinking about it for like I would say like a year, just thinking about going into like this podcast space. But it wasn't until I kind of talked to you about it that
Yeah.
we are now here today, like kind of going and doing
Yeah.
it. So it just shows you like having these connections, having these life journeys, and then also having your parents also on board with you
Mm-hmm.
is so important because it helps you to push you and having someone around you that is wiser, having their just their blessing too as well throughout that
Mm-hmm.
process has been amazing. One of the things I wanted to kind of pivot a little bit into this space is this when we started to connect for you. How was that journey? Because I realized for when we were connecting, it wasn't that you were like kind of even really pushing like this, and I don't know if that's because you learned from your past of kind of being pushed, like pushing your way. I feel like you kind of let it be more natural when we start having that conversation. So I wanted to kind of go through our process of just connecting too as well, and like how was that for you? And I'll kind of talk to you a little bit.
I'm glad you
We
said
start.
that
Yeah.
because that's a good observation
Yeah.
because it was intentional
Mm-hmm.
because of the way I had relations
Right.
previously
Mm-hmm.
and I learned it before um I learned it before me and you connected because the reason why my godchildren like Maya, right? She been around me since she's 29. She said, "God, Dad, you always was around." She's not my biological kid.
Yeah.
I showed up to everything that she ever had
Yeah.
and was always readily available
Yeah.
for whatever, right? If I knew what was going on, if her mom told me what was going on, I was available because I was set up like that to be able to be at any and everything. And even if I heard something about what you had going on, if I got the information,
He was there.
I showed up.
Got the photos.
So it's like, and I never wanted to make you feel uncomfortable because as your father and as a leader and being in leaders and other things, because you already know I've been in the Republican Party just as long as you've been living. So it's like I always was in leadership positions, and even though I helped the Democrats, I was always a leader with them.
Right.
The Republican Party provided those things for me and gave me my own space, almost equivalent to you being a free kid at Germantown Friends and being free spirited. That's how it was me being in the Republican Party. I could be myself. I ain't had to tiptoe around. I ain't had to put the voice on. Hello, how you doing? I didn't have to do that because they respected me as the person that I was. And even though I didn't have the formal education, they let me be me and they paid me for being me. So it was like, if it's that easy, I can't go around people that want me to be something else because that's what everybody do in the city, conform to that way. I'd rather be the outcast, and which I always was and still is now to this day. So it don't matter because I get better results and doing it this way. So
we are set apart, right?
Set apart and everything.
Yeah, and everything.
So it's like, because I seen how my godchildren evolved and what their parents would say, it was probably already set me up for this day with you anyway, because they ran to me because I listened to them. They ran to me because
that's a message for some parents.
I showed up and said, "Hold up, you gotta listen to what she's saying." What you know, Rashid? I said, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you gotta listen to what he or she's saying. I never took the approach with kids in the way that you're gonna do what I tell you to do because I'm older than you. I always took the approach of, what is it that you want to do? Where do you see your life at in 5 years? How much you want to put into what it is that you want your end result to be, versus I know everything and you're gonna do exactly what I tell you to do. That never been my approach. My father and parent skills never was that way. So all it did is extend to the same thing I extended to you, extended to my godchildren.
You was reading those parents' books, or?
Well, because again, my mom was the type of mom that's why I left so early. You're gonna do what I tell you to do, and once you become a young man, you're either gonna succumb to the nurturing side of a woman, or you're gonna try to figure it out yourself. And that's what I did. I was the kid that tried to figure it out on my own. And I don't care how many times I bumped my head, how many times I got locked up, how many times I got told no. Guess what? I knew if I got told no 10 times, it was gonna be 11th time I'm gonna get told yes. But I'm gonna keep trying. So that's me. So what you see in me is I don't give up. I don't have quit in me. Like, and if it's no for now, and then if it's no, if it's pause from now, it's not a no from me. That means keep going. You just got to keep it on pause there, and you got to pivot and leave that pause, the cassette tape on pause, and then still go run a play everywhere else until the pause come off a play. I never looked at it was like it was stopped, it's over, boom, that's done. I never looked at it like that. I always looked at it like it's just a pause, and then till I figured it out, and then I had old people with wisdom saying stuff to me like, don't let them pull on Superman cape. You got you strong. Or you had Martha White saying to me at a young age, saying you the golden child. I had other people saying you a king. I had other people speaking,
breathing life into you, honestly.
And just a little bit. It wasn't even a whole lot. It was enough to keep me at the pavement. And I kept and no matter what people said, I kept digging. You're going to keep digging, I'm going to get my money. I'm going to keep digging. And that's what you see now. And me being a vegan is a form of discipline. And when you have those disciplines, you're able to not be so emotional. Because now you'll know that ain't going to get you what you're supposed to get. And now I'm older now, I really understand even more now. So no, I didn't have, going back to your original question, I didn't feel no type of way. I was waiting for when. And I was preparing through other children, when you did come back, um, that it would be this,
Yeah.
and that I wouldn't push, and I would just give you the information,
Right.
because I was the type of kid, I always wanted the information, but nobody never gave it to me.
Hmm.
So I said, I can't be the kid. I couldn't have been the kid that wanted information, nobody gave it to me, and then be the parent that want to push my stuff on my kids.
Yeah. Right. I think a lot of times we don't even think of our kids as ourselves too as well. Like you
Hmm.
said, the way that you want information and the
Hmm.
way you go online and look for stuff, that's stuff that I've done too as
Hmm.
well. So
Hmm.
the way that you parent is like kind of looking at yourself too as well. Like,
Hmm.
what would I want in this
Hmm.
situation? Would I want someone to listen to me? I
Hmm.
would want to be listened to. Like, I think that's something that,
It's empathy.
it's empathy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to be able, and that's how you have
Yeah.
good relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you don't have good relationship with people, if there's envy, jealous, or strife in that person
Mm-hmm.
for some reason that you may not know.
Yeah.
But meeting me and don't know me, I'm fast friends with any and everybody,
Right.
like this,
Yeah. Around the world too.
around the
We talk
world.
about it.
More episodes, you'll hear about that. But yeah,
Yeah.
fast friends everywhere, son.
Yeah.
So, and that's the approach I take. Not only being a father, that's the approach I take in business and friends. I don't burn bridges,
Right.
and you have to learn how to listen to people and not project your stuff on them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just it.
Yeah.
And just do stuff that try to help people. You want your kids, you want to help your kids. If you want to help people that you don't know, they're strangers, and I've been feeding the homeless probably since you was probably 3, 4 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, that was something I just did out of the kindness of my heart. Nobody give me nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I went and bought that stuff out of my abundance and gave to people in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I did that as a form of keeping me humble.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do that for yourself, especially when you have creature comforts and commodities and you feel like that you arrived or made it or got things. Well, you got to humble yourself.
Yeah.
So and all those things, that's what I learned out of it. And like I said, I was in preparation. You asked me, did I read parenting books? Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't like the way that I was parented.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't read it so much so for myself being a parent. I was reading and say this wasn't even right for
Right.
people to parent me like that.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
wasn't even
Yeah.
looking at it for myself,
Yeah.
but I took a lot of the stuff out of it and
Right.
applied it to my life. I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. A lot of people look at it and and say like, I grew up this way. I grew up fine. And I grew up no, we should always strive to want better for the next generation coming after us.
Absolutely.
That's a big piece. And I think even with connecting with you, doing this podcast, just every time that we have a conversation or we get together, I come out of it better, and I think that's something that we should strive for in our in our relationships with our parents, as kids as well. One of the things that when I have conversation with you is me just asking questions and listening, because you have so much wisdom and knowledge too as well, and it takes a certain humbling of myself too at times, because um, again, like thinking that I have all these accolades and stuff like that, I realized that you didn't even graduate
high school.
High school.
I dropped out in 8th grade.
And got more knowledge and wisdom than I could even fathom. With all the books and stuff that I read, so I think that there's a level of this too as well, that some folks, their parents haven't done the work that they need, and they're trying to have those relationships as well. And I know that you, when you were younger, you talked about being forced to, not forced, pushed to like still have a connection with your family member. Can you talk a bit about that too as well? Just kind of like
So
the importance of it too as well.
So the importance of of having a relationship with your parents. My grandmother instilled that in me, Martha White. I recall as being young as probably 12 years old, and my father was strung out on crack cocaine, um, living in an abandoned house on 22nd Street off of Nango Street in Philadelphia, and my grandma would give me one fare: either you catch the bus there and walk back, or you walk there and catch the bus back. So my dad used to be at a house. Your grandpa used to be at a house that was abandoned. It had one of them barrel cans in the middle of the living room floor, and he used to put wood in there to keep warm, keep the house warm. And I remember going there and just sitting there with him and just talking to him. He didn't have much to say because he was embarrassed, but me showing up gave him a sense of probably hope because my grandmother and her wisdom knew that it was something I needed out of even that relationship. Even though he had nothing to offer, he wasn't taking care of me monetarily. He wasn't taking care of me emotionally. He wasn't taking care of me physically. He wasn't protecting me. He didn't have the ability to do anything, right? Um, I believe in that instance at that age, because I went there and I don't remember too much of what I said to him. I probably would stay for like 15 minutes, shake his hands. Hands used to be all big and a bunch of old skin on them, dirty hands and all that. And it created in me something like, I got to take care of my dad.
Right. Yeah.
So I didn't know at that time because I was so young. But one time I hit the streets and was doing my thing in the streets, uh, I did take care of my dad.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It was like, let me go get my dad, even though he getting high. Let me go take him, go buy some sneakers. Let me clean him up. And he didn't even really do that stuff for me as a kid. I probably did more for my father as a young man than he did for me as a kid. But because my grandmother instilled that in me, no matter what he don't do, what he did do matters the most. And what he did do was, you got here from him.
Right.
However you got here, you're a seed of his. So at bare minimum, you owe him respect. And I've always been the kid. I'm probably my mother's only kid that probably never blatantly disrespected her, right? So, and I never even cursed in front of my grandma. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the respect level that I had for the women that came after my grandma, like my aunt and all of them. Even in controversial things, I still remain mannerable, respectful. So, and I believe a lot of that, what transpired when I was a kid, made me be the person that felt like I had to be Superman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I got to save the world, and that translates into relationships, abandonment from my mom, and abandonment from my dad, and then the provider for both of them. Made me be like in relationships the person that wanted to carry the bag. So I because of the counseling and stuff that I went through over the years, I realized the correlations. So that's how that disparity of my dad's addiction helped me in different ways. It helped me in a couple different ways.
It's important to understand, like, having those relationships and knowing kind of the boundaries too around like what you can take away from it, what you can glean from our family members. Just in times where people may think they're difficult, or you can't have a conversation, or you can't have them around in your life. That is also something to glean from it and build connections for yourself too as well. Like I said, the parallels from you and me while we're having these conversations, and every time that we talk, it just shows me how God really is. He's funny in how he does things, and he shows you that there's a lot of wisdom that you can take away from just different scenarios too as well. And like knowing that this is something I don't want to be, so that creates a different person in you, and so it pushes you in a different direction as well. So yeah, I think that's a big piece of that. I wanted to pivot to this segment that we have. It's called Family Business. I went to my frat brothers, told them about the podcast. They're excited about it. A few of them, they have different relationships with their fathers. Some of them not talking to them. Some of them are really close. And so I got a few questions here that I wanted us to kind of pivot and take a shot at answering a little bit. See what we can do with them. So first one, I'm just going to jump right into it. Were your parents comfortable with you expressing emotions? How comfortable were your own parents in expressing their own emotions?
Well, my parents, because of their upbringings, they wasn't very good communicators. I think that's why I strived once I got out the streets and had children to be a better parent than I was parented. And that's how I got here, because I used what they wasn't and what they didn't do, and implemented the things that I wanted as a
Yeah.
kid from them.
Yeah.
So that's what I was able to do. And I believe I got better results than I got for me being a kid and being their child. Actually, I think, matter of fact, I know, and I know that I became a better child, father to my parents. And they were always, my mom used to always say, she don't say it as much now, like, you're not my father. And
Sometimes we parent our parents sometimes.
so it suggests that if she said I'm not her father, then somebody didn't father her.
Yep.
So you got to listen to what people don't say versus what people say.
Right.
And I've been good at pivoting in that way. They did that, but I'm not doing that. And I pivoted the other way.
Yeah.
But I also listened for the way that they processed what transpired as I grew up and realized that I was parenting them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's big. I think for me, just even talking to you, talking to my mom, there's definitely a level of trying to keep my emotions, especially when if it's a conversation where we are disagreeing. Um, God's working on me, but taking a moment to remove myself from situations too as well, and then having the ability to go back and kind of have those conversations that I need to. I think sometimes with emotions as a kid, like especially now at this age that I'm in, it's hard to balance them when I'm still trying to balance my own, when I'm still working. Again, I know you got the season side of it. For me, you just picked me up yesterday after a situation where I just was upset, and I had to really just pray for a little bit, rely on God to help me to see that there is a learning opportunity too, in expressing my emotions and having a balance in myself, because you can get the culture will tell you that it's the other person, and sometimes we have to realize that it's not just the other person, that God is trying to show you something too for you to grow as well. So I think that kind of tied into what you were saying, as far as like you got to sometimes be the bigger person. Is what people say. That phrase gets turned around, but sometimes you got to be the bigger person, I think. The next one I wanted to hit though, that's a good question of how would you advise someone that's trying to work up the courage to reconnect with um, their distant parent or their son or daughter?
I would say my approach, my real life approach to that was be the outcome that you want from your children, to draw them into what you become. Is an action and is not
Wow.
a verbal conversation.
No, it's great you say that as well. When I was about to reach out to you, I went on your Facebook page and I saw the difference. That's actually interesting. Which I think that made me go and text you, because I saw that there was something different about you. You look different. Like I think that's when you was speaking about different and everything. And I knew that I was looking for God's face, and I go on your Facebook page and I see you nothing but talking about God and your journey, and so that made me want to reach out to and like start to be invested in our relationship more as well. So it's just I think this was funny you say that, because like when you start,
because it was intentional.
yeah,
It was be the change that you want, right? If my parents wasn't who I wanted them to be, and I wanted to be a parent, how do I become it? So I had to use the negative for positive for my outcomes with my children.
Yeah.
And even my mom said that. She said, "How did you become a father like you are? And how do you have so many godchildren? Why all these kids love you?" She'd be around me. She's like, "Why all these kids love you?" She don't have that with her children. But it was intentional that I wouldn't have to get ready. I'll already be ready. And the only way was to be ready was to put the work in. Always be able to show up, always be available, always be open, and always keep praying. That was the approach and formula that I used since I've been a parent. So much so it helped other people with their children when they couldn't reach their children. So I would say be the change that you want. So if you don't have a relationship with your kids for whatever reason, then you should work on the things that you need to work on so you can draw your kids to you through Christ.
Yeah.
Because it ain't through me that y'all draw to me, because I draw nine into God. Was I a perfect person? No, but I never stopped going.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could probably even when I go on vacation, I go to church.
Yeah.
So it ain't even like I don't have no days off. Like,
Yeah. No, seriously.
no, for real. Like, no matter what country I'm in, I'm like, I'm seeking out a church.
Yeah.
If they got the Bible, if they got the Holy Writ there, I'm there. Like, and sometimes I've been places where they don't even speak English and they got to translate Bible for me, but I'm there though.
Yeah.
So that's how important that it was to me, and that's how I was able to be an ocular demonstration to y'all, and y'all able to go back and see where I transitioned.
Right.
I never transitioned and went this way.
Right.
I always transitioned up. It always is up, 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 because I knew I had to be ready, and then I knew one day I was going to be a grandfather. Like, I didn't want to be the grandfather that my grandparents was to me. They was empty. They had hood stuff, but they ain't had nothing of substance. And that's why I went into the church and never came out, because when you have something that you can look at that is not substantive, and you have something that's substance, which is Christ, you realize that they slighted themselves by not learning the word of God. Yeah. They robbed themselves of living life of abundance, being in their own way, in their own emotions. So I really never want to get tucked in all those emotions, because I've seen what the outcome of it was. It was a lot of alcohol abuse, a lot of fighting,
Vices, all vices,
So that's what I would say. Be the change that you want to be for your kids before it gets to that point.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, we'll do one more. Sorry to the bros. It's a lot more, but this last one. Is it necessary to lie to your children about certain things, or is it just lazy parenting to avoid difficult conversations?
Well, I always been the parent to tell the whole truth. So, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't have a great upbringing, and I didn't have a good young adult life being a street person, hustling and making money and all that stuff. It wasn't a good thing, but it was good for me. It taught me a lot of bad things, taught me a lot of good lessons. I would say always tell the truth in love. Always think before you speak, and think about the other person on the other side, even if you don't have that relationship with them no more. At one point you had a relationship with them. So you want to tell the truth, but you don't want to be vulgar or disrespectful when you talking about the other parent, and you want to make sure you coverage them in a certain way that the relationships can still be forged with their child, and not hinder the relationship that you once had with them.
And sometimes people don't even know that they're telling lies about it, because they believe it themselves too. After a while, you get this certain these feelings about people, and like emotions get really involved. It's hard to go through that. But what I realize is that the truth always comes out at some
Absolutely.
point.
That's me. I let the truth play itself out.
Play out.
I don't have to tell it.
Yep.
I can give the truth, and then let the rest be.
Right.
And to add on to what I said, for me, it always been because I tucked in Christ so long. It seemed like so long ago, over 20 years ago. It's like Dr. Wesley Pinnock said some things to me. He says you got to implement things that make you stay in the pocket or stay in the box. So one of the things that I did to stay in the box is I reminded myself I had bought 2 chains, right? These are later crosses, but I always had 2 crosses. And I was the small cross, and that was the big cross, right? And this stayed in between that cross, and I never took them off. And when I would look in the mirror, it would be me and God that kept me focused. Whether somebody was chastising me or not, I was reminding myself of what Rashid got to do. And that's what kept me every day, because that was my reminder. And every time I would touch my keys, I would pray. So I would touch my keys 4 or 5 times a day. I would get in and out of my car. So that's what made me pray so much, because Dr. Wesley Pinnock had taught us that the more you pray, the better off you are. Yeah, reading your word too, but you keep praying. God going to do something. He going to intercede on your behalf.
Yep.
So that's all I knew, and that's all I really had to hold on to in my faith.
Yep.
And that's what created all these other things to make me be like, I got to keep on going. I got to keep on going.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hurt nobody on doing the way. And even if they hurt me, I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna just do what I'm supposed to do, and God will handle the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I kept it going. Even in all my relationships, even when I went sour, I did the same thing. Like, I'm not going to say much or nothing.
Yeah.
God will work it out, and whatever I need to get out of it, God reveal me to me, and let me just work on me. And whatever they got going on, cool. Even with my kids, the same thing. Like, do what you're doing, it's fine. I understand that I once was immature too.
Right.
Again, having empathy, like.
Right. And I feel like that's another thing too. Parents sometimes they parent like I'm not understanding that their child is a child and still going through life themselves too and learning. So when they are frustrated or thinking that they are, not doing what they can see because they had the years of experience, that there's no empathy, there's no kind of understanding of like, okay, this is where my child is at. So sometimes you gotta let them make the mistake, or sometimes you just gotta let them. You can say and that's something that I appreciate. I think with our conversation, you give the wisdom there, and then you just let it lie where it goes, and then eventually, at some point, they're gonna pick it up either through what you said or through life too, as well. Life showing them that what you said was just, you can get into wisdom from someone saying it, or from doing it yourself, or going through the tribulation yourself. So that's a big one. Yeah. I think that was it. I think that's the first episode in.
I think we did well.
Yeah, we did. We did.
God was able. He was willing, and we, he used this. I'm forever grateful. I'm looking forward to more episodes, son.
Definitely, yeah.
I love you, and I'm looking forward to many more years of doing this thing with you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. This is amazing. So appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Stay tuned. All right. Let's see what it looked like.
How long was that? Let's see. I don't even know how long we was talking. Oh, it's just an hour. Is that crazy? Oh wow.
Oh man, somebody called.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh
man.
That's crazy. Everything else was good though.
You got your
yeah, we got that, John.
So we ain't get me then. But it's fine. We gotta hear though.
Yeah, I gotta hear.
And you gotta hear.
Yeah.
And you gotta hear. Yeah.
Dang.
Let me see how much I got. I meant to. I don't know what I did.
Sure, next time we can put on D&D before we do it.
Jeez.
That's 20, so that's like 20 minutes in.
Yep. 20 minutes in.
Yeah. 20 seconds?
20 seconds. No, that can't be it. See what time we started on there.